What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video. Today we are going into our in-depth recap of day one of New England Patriots training camp. So this is going to be for the date of 7/28. That is going to be July 28th. Again, first official day of Patriots training camp. And guys, we are one step closer to actual football. As Bill Belichick himself said, this is where football truly begins. This is where, players are going to make name for themselves. This is where we're going to see who's going to be on the final 53-man roster for our 2021 squad. And like always, like I have done, I believe the last several years, but I know for sure we did this last year, I will be recapping each and every single day of training camp. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave your comments, but most importantly, turn on that bell notification so you get notified when I post new videos, guys. A lot of crazy things are going to happen. A lot of news is going to come out. Guys who could be traded, released, signed. Patriots could make a trade. Players could get injured, and I'm going to make videos as fast as I can about that news. You guys are not going to want to miss it. Now, without further ado, let's just hop right into this. You guys know how this starts. Usually we start with just some general thoughts, some broad statements, and then we'll get into, each position. So, general notes here. Absent was Jarrett Stidham, Ramondre Stevenson, Devin Asiasi, Dalton Keene, Chase Winovich, Byron Cowart, Anthony Jennings, Terez Hall, Cameron McGrone, Stephon Gilmore, Joshua Bledsoe, and Brandon King. We do know a lot of those guys are on the PUP list. They can be taken off at any time. Obviously, the big standout there is that linebacker Kyle Van Noy and Patriots starting right tackle in Trent Brown, not on that list. Surprisingly, the day before camp, they were placed on the PUP list, and in less than 24 hours, they were at practice. So like I told you guys in my live stream, don't really worry about these players on PUP list because some guys can randomly get added, but they can get taken off within the blink of an eye. It's not something to put too much stock into. Now, as for a guy like Jarrett Stidham, that one is a little bit of a surprise. As we all know, he is dealing with an injury. Not going to get too much into that in this video, though. That is going to be its own separate video. The rookie Cameron McGrone is a guy that we should most likely see on this list for the entirety of camp. I don't expect him to be someone who gets taken off. He's likely an IR candidate for the entire 2021 season. We knew this when the Patriots drafted him. So really, other than that, no surprise here. You wish that Byron Cowart could get into the mix. He's still apparently dealing with an injury that kept him out of minicamp. Not a good look for him as he is fighting to make a final roster push. Now, there were guys that were present at practice, but were not suited up, as in they didn't participate, but they were physically there. Those guys were Chase Winovich and Stephon Gilmore. Now, to start off camp, there wasn't anybody limited, so that is a good sign, as again, we are starting off. As I did mention before, Kyle Van Noy did return, but he was wearing a red no-contact jersey. That is something to monitor, but at least he is out on the field. And as a lot of people expected, the first day of training camp was pretty much nothing. It was a bona fide extra day of minicamp. Really just extended walkthroughs. They did a lot of red zone work yet again. Teaching. It wasn't too competitive. As we know, or at least as you should know by now, training camp starts slow and progresses as each day goes on. From what I am hearing, pads should be on come Monday. But again, expect things to get more competitive as each day does continue to go. Now, like we saw a lot through OTAs and like we saw a lot through minicamp, the defense was mainly winning, and that was the case for today. The defense definitely beat the offense. Now, to get into a little bit more specifics, as for the quarterbacks, for 11 on 11s, Cam Newton was 5 for 11 with 2 interceptions. Mac Jones was 8 for 15, while Brian Hoyer was 8 for 17. For 7 on 7s, Cam Newton was 3 for 4, while Mac Jones was just a 1 for 4. The quarterback reps went as that: Cam Newton, Mac Jones, then Brian Hoyer. In some 7 on 7 red zone work, Cam Newton went 3 for 4. He found both Bourne and Wilkerson for touchdowns, while Mac went again just 1 for 4, but he did find Nelson Aguilar for a touchdown. Overall, kind of one of the biggest things that I was hearing involving the quarterbacks, involving kind of the order in which the quarterbacks were going, was why in God's name is Brian Hoyer getting the amount of snap time he is? Obviously, the Patriots should have 4 quarterbacks out there with, Jarrett Stidham, but obviously he wasn't there. So I think this was a prime opportunity for the Patriots to give those snaps split between, or not Brian Hoyer, but Cam Newton and Mac Jones. There's no reason that it should have been equally split between Cam Newton, Mac Jones, and Brian Hoyer. The only two guys that genuinely matter right now is Cam Newton and Mac Jones. I would understand if maybe Jarrett Stidham was there, but Brian Hoyer isn't going to give you anything as a true quarterback, and that he at this point is just here for a mentoring aspect. Now, Cam Newton did make a really nice play today. Unfortunately, it wasn't with his arm. I don't think anyone should have expected that. But he made a really nice play where he was able to scramble and avoid the defensive line, avoid really every single defender, and was able to run in for a touchdown. Now, Mac Jones did have a few impressive throws today when it came to the red zone work. Again, not really something we saw from Cam Newton. Cam Newton, from what I have heard constantly about day one, you can see that arm strength. You can clearly see the difference in arm strength between Cam Newton and Mac Jones, but you can also clearly see the decision-making and the accuracy, the ball placement for Mac Jones compared to Cam Newton. But like I was saying, Mac Jones did have a few impressive throws today when it came to the red zone. He was able to find Bourne in the backfield of the end zone with very little room. He was able to fit the ball into a tight window, and then later he was also able to throw a nice pass to Sony Michel with the defender right up into his face. Jones then had another one in very similar circumstances to the Mac Jones, but to the Sony Michel touchdown, in which he was then looking for Jonnu Smith. But although he was starting off well and was having a pretty good day, unfortunately, Mac Jones didn't finish the best. Something else that did stand out about Mac Jones, though, is that quick release. Something that I noticed just by watching some film and from highlights and just the quarterbacks throwing in general was that Cam Newton is still really holding on to the ball. Yeah, it's just day one. But I don't really expect that to be anything that changes too much. I think that's going to continue to be a problem if Cam Newton is your quarterback, is that he's going to hold on to the ball way too long. As or with Mac Jones, that ball is coming out quick. Now, like I mentioned, Mac Jones did kind of end on a more of a rough note. He did have to run a lap today after fumbling a snap. Now, fumbling might be a little bit of a strong word because he was able to recover it, but still, nonetheless, he did fumble the ball. In general, it was just an up and down day for really every quarterback. There was no quarterback that really stood out over the other. There's no, hey, this is your clear-cut number one quarterback. Now, Cam Newton, of course, was the Patriots' number one in the sense of order, but there's no standout for day one in which you say, hey, that's the quarterback who needs to start for you come week one of the regular season. Mac Jones did have, of course, I would say the better overall day with the more impressive throws, but he just wasn't consistent enough to be able to say, hey, he's the guy that should end for you. And then I don't even really feel like I need to talk about Brian Hoyer. I guess it's my job to, so I will say that Brian Hoyer didn't have a great day, slow with reads, didn't have good accuracy, was throwing the ball just way over his receivers' heads. Nothing that should surprise anyone. And again, I mean, it's not like it matters. He's not fighting for a job. He's not going to get the starting job anyway. So it kind of is what it is. As for the wide receivers here, as was the case in spring, Nelson Agholor is continuing to look like a legit wide receiver, and he's looking like the best wide receiver that the team currently has. Now, a lot of people were expecting him to be just more of a deep threat, guy with speed, guy who is able to take some of that attention away when it comes to, the opposing team's safeties and corners. But he's actually showing that he might be the team's best separator when it comes to a wide receiver also. So we might truly see a Raiders version of Agholor and not so much an Eagles version of Agholor, which is the best case scenario for the team. In some good news here for N'Keal Harry, he did have 2 touchdowns today in red zone work. One of them was a fade from Cam, and then another one was from Mac on a deep route towards the pylon. I will say that I did catch a video of the one N'Keal Harry touchdown from Cam Newton, who just threaded the needle. Like, I was surprised the ball came from Cam because it was just a very tightly thrown ball by Cam Newton with pretty good coverage by Jalen Mills, and just was able to put the ball where it needed to be, and N'Keal Harry came up with a touchdown. Now, I'm not going to say, hey, this this defeats the purpose of trading N'Keal Harry. Again, day one, and hey, N'Keal Harry has always looked pretty good in training camp. Let's see how he looks when it comes to playing some actual games, and then go from there. Now, someone who's been sneaky but has been standing out, definitely a name to watch as we continue on training camp, is Christian Wilkerson, a former UDFA. Now, he was someone who stood out a good amount today. He caught a goal line fade with Divergent in coverage and then caught a few other touchdowns in earlier drills. He could definitely fight to push guys like N'Keal Harry and Isaiah Zuber to make this final roster. Moving on here to the tight ends, Jonnu Smith did get an opportunity on a jet sweep. I think this is something we could see a few different times. This is something usually we would see with a Julian Edelman, Demir Bird, Philip Dorsett, Brandon Cooks, and even N'Keal Harry at times. It looks like they might actually use their tight end in Jonnu Smith from time to time also, which is something that we haven't really seen from a tight end aspect. It's usually the receivers. All around, not really too much to say about the tight ends. It wasn't a great day for them, but that really wasn't on them. I think Belichick was really just bombarding the heck out of Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith just to kind of prepare them for what opposing defenses are likely going to do. When you look at the Patriots receivers, the best aspect out of them is their two top 10 tight ends in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. So it really isn't something I would look into too much. Now, as for the offensive line, Justin Herron was the recipient of having to run a lap for a penalty, and then Yanni Kajust later had to do the same thing. Moving on here to the defense. As for sacks, Carl Davis had one. Good to see him getting in the mix. Pass breakups, Devon Godchow had one. Devon Godchow also had his hands up on a Mac Jones pass attempt, which was the result of that pass breakup. Moving on to the linebackers here. Patriots offseason addition, Raekwon McMillan coming up with an interception. McMillan's interception was a result of a dropped ball by James White and a throw by Cam Newton. The ball went into the air and McMillan was able to come down with it. White, of course, did have to run a lap afterwards. McMillan standing out day one. Hopefully he's able to continue to, because he has a lot of potential if he is able to continue to stay healthy and make his name heard. Now, as for pass breakups, Dante Hightower had one, and then Juwan Bentley had a sack. Before we do continue to get into the safeties, the corners, and special teams, I do want to give a huge shout out to the sponsors of this channel and this video, my boys over at betonline.ag. So for those of you who do not know betonline.ag, BetOnline has the fastest and the easiest ways to bet on all of your sports action. Football might be over, but you still got NBA, college basketball, NHL, everything that is still going on outside of football. BetOnline even has you covered for awards, TV shows, and reality TV with real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline also has you covered for all of the new scores and odds, and it's the best way to place your bets, and it's completely free to sign up. All you guys got to do is head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in with the action, and don't forget to use that promo code CLNS50 to receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. But moving on to the corners here, pass breakups, Michael Jackson had two, Jalen Mills had one, Juwan Williams had one, Miles Bryant had one, and Divergent had one. Jalen Mills was the starting corner opposite of J.C. Jackson, so looks like Jalen Mills with Stephon Gilmore out is CB2, while J.C. Jackson gets thrusted, as we probably should have expected, into CB1. Moving on to the safeties, interceptions, Adrian Phillips had one. The Phillips interception came off of a poorly thrown ball by Cam Newton that was behind Hunter Henry. Phillips and Henry had really, really good competitive drills today. I think there was actually a video of that play also. Really, really, really good play by Adrian Phillips to just get in there and rip that ball out and get that interception. You can kind of see that connection between Cam and Hunter Henry. Like, the coverage was tight, but Cam still said he's going to go to Hunter Henry, and unfortunately it got picked off. But Adrian Phillips, a big standout today. He's performing really, really well and could really have a big role with the Patriots defense this upcoming season. Adrian Phillips also did have two pass breakups today. He also had those two PBUs that he had was on a fade route target for Hunter Henry and Smith. So it does look like Adrian Phillips is going up against tight ends for the most part that could potentially thrust a guy like Kyle Duggar more into a free safety role. So something to watch there, of course. As for special teams, not too much to say. Brandon Bolden was the primary kick returner today. Don't necessarily love to hear that because we've seen it before. He's a secure guy, but not a guy who's really going to do much for you in that, sense of the team. But guys who were also in that area of returning kicks today was Sony Michel, J.J. Taylor, Marvin Hall, and Kyle Duggar. But that is going to be your recap for day 1 of New England Patriots training camp. I will be there present for day 2 and day 3. So if any of you guys are there, make sure to look out for me. I would like to meet each and every single one of you that is there. And again, I will have you covered for each and every single day of training camp, just like we have done here and just like we've done in the past. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you guys leave a big like on this one. Subscribe to the channel. Maybe share it with some friends. It helps me out a ton. But I appreciate you guys for watching this one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Go Pats.